I like to keep you moving around a little bit, lest you be tempted to nod off when I have something very important to say. Of course, everything in my mind is very important. So I am just so grateful, filled with gratitude, celebrating this wonderful season, favorite holiday, reminding us what we should do every day, which is to give thanks for the blessings in our lives, for the gifts of friends and family, and have been particularly grateful for the gifts of the unresolved, the incompletes, the challenges, because I'm reminded time and again as I look at the totality of my life. You know, that's the great thing about having a little wisdom on you, is you can see a bigger picture. You know, and as I look at my life, I realize that so often it was the broken places where new life emerged. It was out of not everything going right, but out of really being challenged, really having to struggle, really having to face darkness and deepness, that the essence of who we are comes forward. So I'm grateful for it all. I'm just so blessed to be part of this community and sharing in the love and the expansion that I sense and feel taking place. And reminded, you know, how grateful I am that we just have a community of people who are each bringing their gifts to bear, to create something larger than any one of us, but there's a totality taking place. And so I was gone last week. For those of you that were also gone, this is your chance to get a freebie in. You'll be like, oh, we missed you last week, and I won't know. So, right? Just so you know. Right. And so, but I was gone, and I went to Las Vegas, baby. Realizing what a Vegas guy I am, for a wonderful seminar and training, and right in the Strip. And I kind of remembered that I'm really not much of a Vegas person. In fact, I just have to share this because I like to humble myself on a regular basis. So I've gone to Vegas a few times over the years, but typically it's to go work with a church in Vegas or to do whatever. And so I was like getting all ready for this trip. I knew I was going to be on the Strip in this hotel and doing this seminar. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to live on the edge. Because I got all these quarters sitting in my little change pile. So I gathered up all my quarters. I was living large, had like $15, I was like, I'm going to blow it all. I don't care. Well, so turns out for those of you who also haven't visited Vegas in a while, it's gone digital like everything else. They don't use coins anymore. That just doesn't seem right to me, Of course, I would still use a rotary phone if it was available to me, so I'm probably not the person to look at. But I just thought, how fun is this? But the seminar was amazing, and there were some amazing speakers. And I said the only thing was it was a very intense weekend, but it's kind of like when you go to take a drink from a fire hose. Wow, okay, that was a lot. So I had the wisdom comes with age sometimes, to take a couple days and hang out in St. George and go to Zion and hike around in there for a little bit and just kind of decompress and go, wow, what just happened? And I realized that, I've been going through a process. I'm always in a process in case you haven't figured it out, but I've noticed in my life that there's periods where I'm on the mountaintop and I can see the big vision and I know how it all works. And then there's times that I go to the valley. I don't know if anybody else does this, but and in the valley, it's not always so clear. It's kind of shadowy and dark and all that sort of thing. And I've come to appreciate and allow myself to be me as an introvert, that I need those times and those spaces just to go in and be with whatever's trying to emerge. And so I feel like I began to emerge from that again, realizing that something new is being born and something new is happening, and this is just the birthing process. And so relax into it. So I was grateful for that because, it's taken me years to get to a place where I could just allow myself to be me. Now, I don't know about you, but I had old stories that floated around in my head about how I should be. Not only how I should be as a person, but how I should be as a minister. Because you all know that the ideal minister would be happy and peppy and full of life and vigor all of the time. Right? Well, you didn't get that guy. So here we are. So the great gift we all have when we just come to appreciate ourselves as a unique expression of the divine, and learning to appreciate and learning to honor that which works for us. Now, I'm always fascinated being in spiritual community because what I get to see is this composite of people with all different kinds of skills and talents and abilities that when we bring that together and we allow that to unfold for a common vision, then something bigger than us gets to emerge. And I realize, and this has been such a process for me, is I don't have to be good at it much, really. Turns out. You can do this without really having any skills whatsoever. I know a lot of you are thinking that on a regular basis. I just thought I'd... Except that it's really good if you can attract amazing people. And so I'm grateful for the gift that I have to attract amazing people into my life experience. And I just watch it Sunday after Sunday, week after week, in all the ways that we show up as community creating something different. But one of the great speakers at this seminar was Les Brown. How many of you are familiar with Les Brown? You know, just a great motivational speaker, really wonderful story, born into nothing, dyslexic, challenged, all this sort of thing. And he became this amazing speaker and teacher. And, he was just sharing his journey, and I was just so impressed by his presence. I've heard him before. He has a wonderful story. He has a wonderful presentation, but his presence is so powerful that you can't help but think a little bigger, see the bigger picture, and allow that something to emerge. And so I was really been reflecting on quite a bit on what he had to say over this last week and sitting with that. In fact, I actually signed up. I'm going to go take a seminar with him in February because I want to take that next step for my own. He's giving this particular weekend is about communicating from the heart. And I know people sometimes say to me, "You're a good speaker." And I'm like, "Cool, thank you." And I am. I own that. But I'm like, I think I can be even better. How would I get better? I'll go study with somebody who's better, right? One of the things I was reminded of in this whole weekend experience is we become like the people we hang out with. This may be good news, it may not. I'll let you decide, right? But it was Thanksgiving, right? So I'm sure I did not do a family gathering. I had a wonderful experience with Carol, and what I like to say is a gathering of aging hippies. It was very metaphysical and wonderful. I loved it, But we just had a wonderful time. But when you come together with family, one of the things that can happen is everybody goes into old story, right? Talk about the past, who did this, who was there, blah, 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 blah. And I realized in this that, so often what we do is we get stuck in our old story. And so I was preparing for this talk today, which is really the law of release. And the law of release is not a law that is spoken a lot. There is a law that we hear a lot about, especially over the last few years, and that's called the law of attraction. Have you heard of it? Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know. It was a secret for so long that I didn't know if anybody had heard of it. So, but so you see, there's a complementary law to the law of attraction, which is the law of release. Because we are always attracting to ourselves who we are. We're not attracting to ourselves what we do. We're attracting out of who we are. The who we are determines how we act and what we do, which creates the circumstances for our life experience. So, in looking at that, I was reminded how often I do, maybe you don't do this, I shouldn't include you in a we statement, you may not do this. What I do is from time to time stay stuck in my old story. Stay stuck in what was. stay stuck in the belief that I have about myself, about life, about reality. And yet I want a different experience. So I say, God, it's Marty, checking in. Here's what I want. Thinking that God will bring into my life, dropped from heaven, the thing that I want. But what I know as I've studied this teaching long enough is we don't get what we want. We get what we can embody. We get what we can embrace. We get who we become. So when we are reminded of this, we're reminded that it's not the work at the outer level that brings our greater good. It is this inner work that we are always working on to say, okay, what is happening? You see, for those who are new with us, we have a belief system that God is not out there, but rather God is the presence and the power and the life that is all around us and within us. And that life is bringing forth reality according to our own belief structures. So when we believe life to be easy, it becomes easy. If we think life is meant to be hard, because we were all trained that life should be hard, right? Weren't you? Work hard. Be something. Make something of yourself. Stress a little bit more. Right? Am I the only one that got this message? Really? Right? And then you have some idiot like me that says, just let your life flow and be easy. And you're like, what? Not at our table. No way. Right? But you see, we get to make it all up. And so what we begin to understand is that sense of life and about ourselves is the co-creative process that unfolds in our lives. And if we want to begin to experience something different, we must become different. In my own experience, I began to see just this latest time, and this was kind of a culmination of going through dark period to kind of begin to move up to the mountaintop again, to see a larger possibility, to see what's next. And I was reminded, Les Brown had a bunch of good lines. You'll be hearing some of them over the next few months, I have no doubt. But one of his great lines was this. He was talking, these are all leaders. And so he was saying, what you need to understand is your job is to distract people from their current story and lead them to a new story. He said, you're not here to sell a product or a service. You are there to sell them on a new story about themselves. It's a story of hope, and it's a story of possibility. Now, so I thought, what am I selling? I am selling on a regular basis you. And part of my job is to distract you from whatever your current story is to help you to envision a new story, a new possibility, to realize you are not the circumstances of your life. The circumstances are just what they are. And if we're wise, we begin to see the circumstances in our lives as opportunities. If it's working, keep doing that. If it's not working, maybe try something new. Maybe. I want to get all crazy on you here, but I'm just saying. So often what we do in our lives is we keep arguing for our old story, and then we're mad because we don't get a different result. So we come up with a compensating factor. It's called blame. Some of us have developed real skill around that, right? My life doesn't work because, my gift, being in spiritual community, I've got 400 or 500 people I can blame my stuff on, right? You may only have a handful of people. I got a bunch of them. It's good. I'm never exhausted for a supply of reasons why my life doesn't work. But what I also realize is every time I get stuck, it's because I'm stuck in my old story. It's not what's happening to me. It's my old story about whatever. And that if I want my life to be expansive, I have to become expansive. I have to go back to the truth that I know, which is there's only one life, there's only one power, there's only one infinite being, that being delights in its self-expression. You think about this universal intelligence, I think it's safe to say it delights in becoming. So I was in Zion, and I was just, having this magical moment of going, wow, the beauty. And then the light changing, and it's kind of hard not to believe in God when you're in really beautiful places like that, right? Something's seriously wrong if you don't, I've got to say. But and just reminded that the divine delights in this expression, and therefore it delights in our expression. So it's about awakening to the new story, and it's awakening to the new possibility, and it's awakening to that which is seeking to be born within us, and saying yes to it. But if we go back to the old, we recreate that. So I see sometimes how I've watched this in so many ways. I've watched it in my own life. I've watched it with other people. How we progress. We move forward. We say, by gosh, think back. Just 11 short months ago, you were standing at this beginning of this new year. And many of us said crazy things. This year, I'm going to. How you doing? How's that going for you? Only a month left. You might want to get started. Right? Because we make these grand and glorious pronouncements, but then we go back to doing what we did before, thinking the way we thought before, acting the way we did. And then, oddly enough, our lives pretty much look like they did before. Sometimes people will have great wealth come into their life through inheritance or lottery or whatever, and all of a sudden they've got more than they had. But if you track this out, very often what happens is their lives look very much the way that did before that big event, because the important thing didn't change. And the important thing is the consciousness around it. They didn't tell a new story to match the new circumstance. Sometimes I've met people who've been in the same relationship over and over and over, different people, but the same relationship. And they're like, I don't understand why I always attract this. Me neither. It's a mystery to me. I have no clue. But my friend Marianne Williamson says, the problem, my dear, is not that you attract unavailable men. The problem is you give them your phone number. I didn't say it. You can be mad at her. Right? So when we watch these patterns show up again and again, we realize the common denominator is you and I. And so if we really want lasting change in our life, we've got to begin to embrace a new story. And the huge piece of this is releasing the old story. Right? So if you decide today, here's your new vision of possibility, here's the thing you will commit to, here's the thing that you want, realize that if you tell your old story tomorrow morning, the chances are greatly diminished of it ever coming into being. Right? And so we need to be aware that this releasing is an ongoing process. I remember Michael Beckwith hearing him say one time many years ago that 90% of our personal growth comes out of letting go. And I didn't understand it at the time. I'm not sure I understand it now, but I have a better insight into it, which is letting go of the limitation, letting go of the lack, letting go of the belief in separation, letting go in our old story, letting go of all of that so that we can embrace this new image, this new possibility, this new mental equivalent, as Ernest Holmes called it. You see, we have to move into the consciousness of the thing before the thing can be welcome in our life. Because as I mentioned before, sometimes the thing shows up in our life, but without the consciousness to hold it, it has nowhere to live. It must go away. It says to you, I'm not welcome here. Money comes into our life. And we tell an old story about not liking money. I hate money. It's a struggle. And well, I got to go. Got to see ya. Thanks. That was fun. Got to go. Right? So as we begin to embrace this new possibility, realize the complement to the law of attraction is the law of release. That until there's only so much that can be in our lives. You see, how many of you live in a house or an apartment or a condo or some dwelling with walls and a door? Okay, good. Now, I don't know if you have a 1,200 square foot home, 600 square foot home, 6,000 square foot home, but you'll notice the closets always fill up. Isn't that amazing? It does not matter, so we need to add an addition. It all filled up. So one of the first steps in creating space in our lives is creating space in our lives. I've just been going through, I kind of started this process. I'm not as far along as I'd like to be, but I started this process like, it's time to let go of some stuff. And I thought, I have this closet, and it's sort of separated. It kind of goes from ideal weight, more weight, and then we get to my fat suit section, I call it, And it's like, why am I holding on to my fat suits? Just in case. You got it. Guess what's going away tomorrow? Because I don't want to be there, right? I don't want to prepare myself to say, oh, well, if I ever decide to get fat again, I'll be ready for it, right? My guess is if I decide to get fat again, they'll still make fat suits. I can go there. What the heck, right? So it's like, release, get rid of, let go of. Now, that's true on a physical level. Guess what's true on a mental level? That same process. And that's why I love this work. That's why I love being in this community. Why I love Science of Mind. We're not here to sell you on Science of Mind, but Science of Mind is a tool that can help us do that consciousness work so that we go through our mental closet from time to time and say, does that still serve me? And if it doesn't, if it's not what I want, maybe I ought to get rid of it. Just saying. I don't know. You may not want to. You may want to do something else. Another thing we might consider is releasing anger, releasing resentment, releasing blame, releasing shame. Now, I know they're handy tools to have in the toolkit. I get it. I love it too. Nothing better, especially, coming out of a holiday weekend, nothing better than blame. You can look in the mirror and go, it's not my fault. Look at the crazies I grew up with. Not my fault, right? And that's all good, but it'll keep you stuck. Until we really are willing to take responsibility and appreciate what is, and to realize and let go of and be willing to realize we're all doing the best we can, as were they, then we can own our own power. I was loving, I'm quoting all the masters today. We got Les Brown, we got Oprah, got it all right here. But I love what she said. I was reminded of this. She said, be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't want, you will never, ever have enough. Right? Appreciate what you have today. That's why I say this practice of Thanksgiving should not be once in a while and overindulgent. It should be a daily practice of the blessings that are in our life. How blessed we are by this universal intelligence, by this loving presence that delights in its self-expression through us. And being grateful and then allowing for a greater good to come forward. But always appreciating. You see, the biggest mistake I think we make, the biggest mistake I make and others I watch, is we keep thinking that the circumstances will determine the experience. That when I have the money, I'll have the joy. When I have the relationship, then I'll have love. When I have whatever it is I've made up to decide that I need to have. But as Oprah says, if you don't appreciate what you have, you'll never have enough. There'll always be a longing. So I'm just reminded that we're here on a short walk, that we only get to have what we get to have. We only get to experience what we get to experience. And why not be present and available for what is right now? Why not give thanks for what is? Why not be willing to release those who've come before, those who've blessed us, those who've shared a way to be by not being that? That's a good way to say that. Right? They're all our teachers. And I know some of my best teachers have been the ones that weren't that, right? They may be appreciated. So, in closing today, what I want you to envision, if you will, is your highest vision for your life. If I were to wave my magic wand and I were to say, you get to have the life that you want, what is it you want? What is it you want? Now hear the voice that says, here's what I want, but. And one of those voices is, I don't know how. I have to share this story. It was so good. Some of you remember a while back, around the first of the year, I was saying, right out loud in front of God and everyone, I see us receiving a large gift, $50,000. Everyone, isn't he cute? Right? I know that look. Isn't he, my grandma used to, isn't he cute? And then, lo and behold, through a manner of circumstances, we had this gift that has been given to us, Center for Spiritual Living. So, when was that? Wednesday, I guess. Camille and I went over to the donors, to their house, to receive these gemstones, who have an estimated retail value of $250,000. Now, this was a new experience for me. I have to say, this is a first for me. I've never had anyone give me gemstones. They didn't give them to me, but to us. So we're sitting there. Wasn't that kind of weird? I mean, it was lovely, but you were kind of like, this is odd. So we're going through the jewels, and there's rubies, and there's sapphires, and there's opals, and there's all these things. They're all documented. We have to verify that we've received those, and then, so we put them all in the case. We sign the paperwork, and I'm driving. I've got this case, Camille says, do you get handcuffs with that? I mean, how does this thing work? Driving along, going to the bank to put them in the safe deposit, and I'm like, called my friend Sally and said, so this is a new experience. Driving around in my car with $250,000 worth of jewels. Said, well, for me, that was confirmation that I am indeed ready to take on the throne of this experience. The jewels are now in place to create the magnificent crown that I've been wanting for, and the scepter, and some things are going to change around here, baby. Or we'll put them in the bank, and they'll sit there. They're part of our building fund. And so here's the wonderful, this is what I keep marveling about. This gift came from people who are not members of our community. Yeah. But they love me. They love the work we're doing. They're appreciative of the message, even though they have their own faith tradition. And they're in a position to support us. So you see, that thing that we so often do is we say, well, here's what I want, but I don't know how it can happen, and therefore it can't happen. Luckily, God has a bigger, better idea. Luckily, there are avenues of creation that we can never imagine. We have to figure out the what. And then after we figure out the what, we have to say, one, we start with gratitude, being grateful for what is. Don't be in that longing place, but being grateful for what is. Now what? Now what do I want? Then asking ourselves, the question we do in Visioning is, how must I grow? Who must I become? You see, if my life right now is a reflection of who I am, and I want this larger experience of life, I have to grow into that larger experience. I have to become that person. And then when I become that, then what am I willing to release in order to have it? And this is where I see people get stuck over and over and over. They want the new, they won't let go of the old. For me, I always had this image of if you were going to be a trapeze artist, which I'm interested in, I don't know, we'll see. No? That's all I needed. I'm there. One more item for my bucket list now, right? All I need is somebody to tell me, no, you're not going to do that. But what I am told is that when those trapeze things are swinging, that you must let go of the old one in order to catch the new one, right? And that's how it is for us. When we are moving out, and that's how it feels sometimes, you got to let go and accept and catch the new so that something must be born. So being grateful, asking what do I want, asking how must I grow, then asking what must I release in order for this to come about. Understand, to fully practice the law of attraction, we must also learn to practice the law of release. So wherever you are on your journey, I just want to say I'm grateful that you're a part of this community. I just want you to know that wherever you are loved and supported in being fully who you are. Let us pray. As we simply take a deep breath and allow ourselves to recognize that divine, infinite presence, the one life that is making itself known in and through and as all creation, the very breath that we breathe, we even recognize that there is something that is breathing us, breathing through us, expressing itself as us. So we allow our hearts to be open to the presence of unconditional love. We open our minds to divine wisdom. We allow ourselves to sense and feel and know that there is indeed a larger story at work. And so we breathe into the possibility of hope, of joy, of satisfying full expression. We allow ourselves to imagine and envision the larger life. We are grateful that we experience ourselves in this divine presence, and as we recognize this presence, we call forth the greater possibility. We recognize the presence of wholeness as our divine inheritance. And we allow that wholeness to be revealed and expressed as health, as well-being, as vitality. We're sensing and feeling and knowing that we live in the presence of absolute unconditional love. That which is grace. That which is forever giving of itself. And as we recognize that as our divine inheritance, it becomes very easy to forgive, to release, to let go. We forgive ourselves for our unskilled behaviors. We forgive ourselves for we forgive those who we perceive to have harmed us. We're simply moving into a state of grace, of love, of joy, of understanding, finding peace and wholeness and transformation. I bear witness to this ever-present presence of abundance, the life that is the creator and source of all that is. And so we open ourselves to joyously give and graciously receive of the infinite bounty of life. We're simply knowing that we are always divinely supported in our high intention. How good it is to know. And so as we allow ourselves to awaken to the greater possibility that is seeking its emergence through us, we know that all things are possible for those that believe in life, believe in love, believe in joy. And so we are grateful. We are blessed. And as we allow ourselves to experience at a deep and profound level the many blessings, it's only natural that we extend a blessing. For that which we give, we receive, and that which we receive, we give. And so we bless this spiritual community, knowing that it is divinely guided, that it is abundantly supported in its mission of bringing greater light and truth and love to the planet. We extend that blessing to our brothers and sisters across the country and indeed across the world. We're simply holding that high watch for a world that works for all, for a planet at peace, for love to be made manifest. And as always, I speak the word of truth as I bless all priests, all rabbis, all ministers, teachers of every faith and every faith tradition. For I know there are many pathways to the divine, and so I honor and celebrate them all. How good it is to know this truth. And so I invite you in this moment to simply take a deep breath. To know that life is saying yes to your highest dreams, your highest vision, your highest possibility. To know that you are whole, that you are perfect, that you are complete. That you are a spiritual being having this wonderful and dynamic human experience. And so giving thanks for the many blessings, so many more to come, we simply give thanks. As I release this word into that law, I know that it is already done. I give thanks for it, and I allow it to be so. As together we say, and so it is.